Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the live game review to Everton's 1-1 draw against Burnley. Another disappointing performance by Everton Football Club, another disappointing result as well, away to the side who were second bottom of the table at 12:30 on Saturday, and we could not get the 3 points. Another pretty poor performance, wasn't it? Let's be perfectly honest with you. There didn't seem to be much intensity, there didn't seem to be much energy, there didn't seem to be much passion. And other than the goal that we scored and a couple of opportunities, created by James Rodriguez, we didn't really have much else in the game. And Burnley come out with the game plan that they always seem to adopt, and that's just sit everyone behind the ball and try and get a goal on the counter-attack. And they done that within the opening 3 minutes of the game. Everton were 1-0 down, and it was pretty much a carbon copy of the goal that we conceded last week against Leeds. And I sort of took two things from that goal when it went in. I felt two different ways. One of them was, why don't we just, get at players? Why don't we just chase players down? Why do we allow players all the time, all the space in the world to have a shot and to have a go at us? And secondly, I thought, why don't we look at opposition teams who are doing this against us, and why don't we adopt that ourselves? Why don't we have a shot from outside the box every now and then? Why don't we try and score from 25, 30 yards out? Why does it always have to be a lovely, well-worked goal from Everton Football Club? The goal that we scored on Saturday was a very good goal, but again, it was a goal where Dominic Calvert-Lewin put it in at the back post, and I don't care how we scored as long as we score, but the reality of the situation is we're not winning football games at the moment because we're not having, enough opportunities, and we just don't seem to want to have a go from outside the box. It's not the biggest issue. We're going to talk about defensive stability in today's live review because I think, again, it's something that really, really hurt us at the weekend. But it's just one thing that really, really done my head in. As soon as Burnley scored, and it was another effort from 20-odd yards out where the player hadn't been, he hadn't been defended, no one had ran at him, no one had decided to chase him down, he'd had the shot, it had gone in, and you're 1-0 down, and you're thinking, well, yeah, okay, we should be defending an awful lot better against those opportunities and those chances, and that's a defensive issue. But why don't our attack look at that and think, why don't we just have a go from outside the box every now and then? Why don't we try our luck? We seem to want to pass it in and play this lovely Barcelona style of football every week, and that's great when it works. It's great when you beat West Brom 5-2, it's great when you beat Brighton 5-2, but in those games where you just need a goal, sometimes you've just got to lace your foot through it from 25 yards out and hope it goes in. But we've got a lot to talk about, obviously, in this game. It wasn't a great game of football. I hope you are liking the new Christmas background, by the way. I thought I'd add some festive cheer to the live stream. It is now officially December, the 7th of December, so we're getting the Christmas stuff on. We're trying to be as positive as possible. It's been an absolutely dreadful year. So I hope you like the new Christmas background. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Shout out to Joe for sorting that one out. But yeah, look, we're going to talk about the whole game. It was another performance. It was a typical game against Burnley, wasn't it, really? And that's no disrespect to Burnley, but we sort of knew it was going to be like this, on Friday night before we were going into the game. We knew that it was going to be tough. We knew that there wasn't going to be an awful lot of goals. There wasn't going to be an awful lot of chances. Burnley do make it very, very difficult for you, and it wasn't a classic whatsoever, but we had chances to win the game ultimately. We had chances to come away with the 3 points, and we didn't take them. And that's, again, that's the biggest disappointment, is when you come out of a game like this and you so desperately need the 3 points and you still only manage the point. It's dead weird, this one, because I'm sitting here now, we're doing a game review, and I keep having to remind myself that we didn't lose this game of football, because it just feels like a loss. I don't know if that's the same for anybody else watching this live stream, for anybody in the live comments, but it just feels like a loss, this one. And it's mad. I had to keep sort of, I was doing the notes earlier on and I was thinking about what we can talk about in the stream, and I had to keep reminding myself we didn't lose this game, we got a point out of it, and that's because a point was never going to be good enough, and it wasn't good enough at the weekend. Again, we were coming in against the side that we're currently sitting, second bottom of the league at 12 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, and we should have been going out to win that game of football. And don't get me wrong, you don't win every game of football. Sometimes you lose, sometimes you draw, sometimes you don't get what you deserve, but we didn't look like we really wanted to win it. We got back into the game, obviously, with a goal, just before half time. It was a good ball. It was nicely played. But even if Gylfi Sigurdsson would have slotted that, opportunity in the last 30 seconds of the game, which, again, we're going to talk about a little bit later on, we'd still all be sitting there saying, yeah, boss, we've won, brilliant, get in, we've won the game. But realistically, it wasn't a classic performance. Being very similar to the Fulham game, we were sitting there saying, okay, we've won, but it wasn't brilliant, was it? Let's be perfectly honest. So yeah, we've got an awful lot to get into today. If you are enjoying it, please do hit that like button. I'm just going to tweet it out so everybody knows that we are live. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. Really do appreciate everybody getting involved as per usual, of course. How are you today? How are you feeling? Are you feeling in the Christmas spirit yet? Are you happy even though it wasn't another good performance by Everton? And again, this was vitally important, this game. And I seem to be saying every single week now, oh, this is a must-win, this is a must-win. And I don't want to come into every game preview and review and say, oh, that was a must-win, that, just for the sake of it. But when you look at the fixtures that we've got coming up in December, when you look at the sides that we're playing, you know, the game against Southampton, the game against Leeds, the game against Man United, the game against Newcastle, they all seem like games that we should have been picking up as many points as possible. And I don't want to be stupidly negative going into this Christmas period and start saying, oh yeah, we're not going to win any of these games, we'll probably lose them all, because it would not surprise me if Everton turned up next Saturday and beat Chelsea comfortably. To be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if Everton turned up in a couple of weeks and beat Manchester United in the Carabao Cup quarter-final comfortably, because that's what Everton do. It's been a year to the day since Duncan Ferguson managed this first game as Everton manager. We beat Chelsea 3-1 on that day, and I remember I tweeted out this morning, it's one of my favourite ever Everton games in the 22 years I've been supporting the football club, because I remember going to Goodison Park on that morning, that afternoon of that game. It was freezing cold, it was winter time, and there was there was an air of desperation and there was an air of uncertainty. We didn't know how well Duncan Ferguson had managed this Everton team. We didn't know the performance that we'd get out of these players. All we had to go off is the fact that they'd been absolutely dreadful from the start of the season to that point, and we were hovering around the relegation zone. And I actually remember thinking, if Marco Silva had stayed in charge of this football club, then we could possibly of being relegated. And Duncan Ferguson took over, and as much as we all wanted and loved Duncan Ferguson and wanted him to do well, don't think anybody could have sat there on the morning of that Chelsea game and guaranteed that Everton were going to perform because of how poorly we'd been. And I just remember coming out the stadium, and what was desperation walking in was just elation and happiness and, you know, just a sense of relief. And like I said it on Twitter this morning, there was tears certainly coming out of my face leaving that ground, because we saw an Everton performance that just embodied this football club: passion, energy, never giving up, fighting, wearing your heart on the sleeve, every single player putting in a performance. It was the birth of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, or at least the Dominic Calvert-Lewin that we know today. And again, you know, we didn't see that at the weekend, and I think there's a number of different reasons as to why. So let's go straight into it anyway, because I do think it's important to go straight into it. We will get into the live comments as well at some point during the live stream. Carlo Ancelotti started with a 5 at the back, 3 at the back formation, whatever you want to call it. He started with that formation that I know a lot of people don't like. I actually think it can work when you've got very good attacking fullbacks in the side, when you've got somebody like a Luca Dean who can get down that left-hand side and constantly create, like the Fulham game, for example, where you've got Luca Dean belting it down every 10 seconds and getting assists, you know, left, right and centre, and you've got an attacking fullback on the right-hand side that can do the same. I actually don't think it's the worst formation, but the reality of the situation is we haven't got a fifth fullback at the moment that can do that. We will talk about Niles Nkunku in a little bit. I don't want to sit here and bang on about Nkunku and Gordon, because I feel like we're just beating a dead drum. We're just constantly talking about them, constantly bringing them up, but it doesn't make any difference, because they're not even in the matchday squads, which I think is really strange, but we will talk about them. But Carlo went for a 5-3 at the back, whatever you want to call it. We have Ben Godfrey in there alongside Yerry Mead and Michael Keane. Mason Holgate dropped off to the bench. Alex Iwobi started on the right hand side, right wing back. Fabian Delph started left wing back. Alan Decore and Hammers in the midfield three, and Richarlison and Dom up top. Now, evidently, I think we all had the same issue going into this game: is why is Fabian Delph playing left wing back? Fabian Delph has experience playing left back for Manchester City before. Obviously, he come to Everton Football Club left back. He's a defensive minded midfield player. He fit in at left back when Pep Guardiola had nobody else to play there, and he'd done a decent job. He held his own defensively, he got the ball forward, he played it into what was a world-class midfield in that season. Fabian Delph is about as much of a left wing back as the halloumi I'm about to have on my tea in about an hour. He cannot play left wing back, and we all knew that going into this game. And the thing that frustrates me the most with this situation is if Carlo Ancelotti set up with a 4 at the back formation and had Fabian Delph at left back and Niles Nkunku on the bench and come out and said, look, Nkunku's a good player, but he's very inexperienced, and I'd rather go with the inexperience. I think we'd all sit back and go, you know what, that's fair enough, because Delph's not playing in an attacking formation, so he'd be playing to his strengths, and you've got Nkunku on the bench to come on if need be. But we had neither of that. We had Delph playing in a fullback role, which just basically meant he was irrelevant for the whole 20 minutes that he was on the pitch. A wing-back role, which basically meant that he was irrelevant. And we had no cover for left-back on the bench, and the title of this live stream is "We Lack Defensive Stability and It's Costing Us." I honestly think the reason as to why we can't string a decent level of performances at the moment, and we can't string a decent run of results, is because our defence is constantly being changed. It seems like every week there's changes in the defensive back line, whether it's Mina coming out and Holgate coming out, Godfrey coming in, Kenny coming in, Davis or Iwobi, Delph, doesn't matter who it is, we seem to be constantly changing our back line, and we're never going to get any consistency. We're never going to stop these silly errors. We're never going to be able to breathe confidence into this side if you're constantly changing the defensive line. Now, I understand that we've had some big injuries this season. I understand that we've got a massive injury to Luca Dean, which isn't ideal whatsoever, because he is the best left back in the country for me, possibly even the world, and we've got a big injury to Seamus Coleman, who again is been absolutely fantastic for us in the opening few games of the season. Look at Everton's first 4 wins of the season. Look at Everton's first 5 wins of the season. We had the same defensive line: Dean, Mina, Keane, Coleman. Understandably, there's injuries and that has to change, but I just feel like it's constantly being changed. And obviously Godfrey went left back at the weekend, and don't get me wrong, Godfrey played well at left back, but it's an unnatural position for him. You had Alex Iwobi starting at right wing back. Tom Davis had been there at certain points over the last couple of weeks. Mina and Keane were there again at the weekend. Holgate was there last weekend. There's just no consistency in that back line, and we're never going to be able to create a stable defence if it's constantly chopping and changing. For me, Carlo Ancelotti needs to look at this defence now and decide who his best back line is. And if his best back line is Dean, Mina, Keane and Coleman, then the 2 centre-backs that started this weekend, the coming weekend and for the future, should be Mina and Keane. You can't just be putting Godfrey in there or Holgate in there for the sake of it. Understandably, you're going to have to switch out the full-backs, but decide who your second-best full-back is. If you believe your second-best right-back is Alex Iwobi plays every week there, not Tom Davis or John Joe Kenny at sometimes. If you decide your second-best left-back is Fabian Delph, then he should be there consistently. Not Alex Iwobi in one game, Fabian Delph in another, Ben Godfrey in another. Fabian Delph's picked up an injury now, a hamstring injury, which is going to see him out for quite some time. Can I see Niles Nkunku starting at the weekend? Absolutely not. DG says his best back line is not available. You don't get that. Of course I get it. I understand that the 2 fullbacks are massive to this back line and they're not available. But Carlo has to now, for me, sit down and decide who his second best left back is, who his second best right back is, and then play them consistently. Fabian Delph was available when Alex Iwobi played left wing back. He didn't play him there. Alex Iwobi was available when Ben Godfrey went left back. He didn't play him there, so why was he playing there 2 weeks ago? The week before last. Tom Davis played right wing back a couple of weeks ago. He was available on the weekend. Why isn't Tom Davis playing right wing back? We need to have some form of stability, and I understand, for me, our best back line is Michael Keane, Seamus Coleman, Luca Dean, and then I'm torn between Mina and Holgate at the moment. Maybe even Godfrey, because Godfrey hasn't really put a foot wrong, to be honest, since he's come into the club. But Carlo needs to decide who that best back line is and then stick with it. And then if you've got players out through injury, which of course you cannot help, Dean, Coleman, etc., decide who your second best fullbacks are and then go with them. Because it's clear that he doesn't believe Niles Nkunku is the second best left back in the team. That's something that we're going to have to put up with. That's something that we're going to have to accept. And if Luca Dean would have come out a couple of weeks ago through injury and Fabian Delph had started against Leeds and Fabian Delph had started against Fulham, you'd go, well, he clearly sees Fabian Delph as his second best left back, which is fine. That's fair enough. He's playing there. He's the backup, but he wasn't. You had Iwobi there. You've had Delph there. You've had Godfrey there. I understand Godfrey was there because Delph was injured, but why was Iwobi there a couple of weeks ago? It just, for me, that defensive instability is causing just massive communication issues along the back line, and we're conceding silly goals and we're allowing stupid opportunities. Listen, at the end of the day, that's going to cost us this season. But that wasn't the only reason as to why we didn't win this game of football. Again, there just seemed to be a lot of... I don't know what it was, but the start of the season we were playing so well. We were so organised. We beat a Tottenham side who look like they can't be beaten now. We comfortably beat them. And now players just don't seem to really be reacting in the same way. And I don't know whether that's because we've played the last couple of games starting with a 5 at the back formation and maybe they don't sort of suit that. I know Abdoulaye Doucouré looked like a completely different player when we moved back to a 4 at the back formation. I think that's something that we absolutely, by the way, now have to adopt. It has to be 4 at the back, whether it's 4-3-3, whether it's 4-4-2, it doesn't matter. It has to be 4 at the back. It's simplified. Like I said, for me, you can't play a 5 at the back formation without unbelievable fullbacks. If Luca Dean's fit and Seamus Coleman's fit, you'll get away with it. We need a new right back as well for the start. That should be the priority on the list in the summer, because again, you know me, I don't do January, because we don't really sign players in January, certainly not first teamers. The summer, we need to be looking at a right back as a necessity. Seamus Coleman isn't going to be able to play 38 games in a Premier League season. He's just not. His legs won't allow it. So if you've got your two best fullbacks available, then go for a 5 at the back. It's an attacking formation. Luca Dean will thrive all day in that formation. But when you haven't got your best fullbacks available, for me, it has to be a flat back 4. And then Carlo has to decide who that flat back 4 is when certain players aren't available. Like I said, Andre Gomez come on the weekend and look to, sort of calm the team a little bit down and add that bit of consistency and add that bit of stability in the midfield. And we looked a lot better for that. But for me, that's one of the biggest issues, is the constant changes in defence. And I understand that some of them are forced through injury. I get that. And I get that Carlo Ancelotti probably wasn't bagging on Luca Dean picking up an injury that's going to keep him out for 2 or 3 months. But he needs to decide now, okay, when these players get injured, these are the players that are going to come in. For me, Ben Godfrey is well within a shout to start every week for Everton Football Club, because he's been fantastic. He was fantastic when he had to play at left back. It was probably my man of the match. I said in the player ratings it was Jordan Pickford, but looking at it, Ben Godfrey was brilliant. He was absolutely fantastic. So maybe he's in with the shout, but one thing we can't do is just be chopping and changing every week. One week, Mason goes in there, next week Mina goes in there, next week Godfrey's at left back. It's just causing so many issues, because ultimately if you're Michael Keane and you're going into training on a Monday and you've played with Yerry Mina and you've won the game, regardless of how well Yerry Mina's played, you've won the game, and then you're coming into the weekend's game and you're playing next to Mason Holgate, it's a completely different dynamic there. Or you're playing next to Ben Godfrey, it's a completely different dynamic. So that's one thing I want to bring up straight away: defensive stability and just going with a 4 at the back formation, because it worked for us. It worked for us at the start of the season, and it works for us whilst we haven't got Luca Dean specifically available, because we haven't got anybody to directly replace him. I do want to mention Niles Nkunku for a moment, and I'm only going to spend a brief moment talking about Niles Nkunku, by the way, because I feel like we could sit here and I could talk for an hour about Nkunku, I could talk for an hour about Anthony Gordon, but regardless of how long we talk about those players for, it just seems like, for whatever reason, Carlo Ancelotti doesn't want to include them. Now, this has gone beyond the point, I think, of a sort of, is it a trust issue? Is it because he doesn't want to, throw them in at the deep end? I understand, like I said, I would understand if Carlo Ancelotti come out and said, look, I'm putting Fabian Delph at left back because he's got experience, he's played there before, and I trust him over a youngster in Nkunku, and Nkunku's going on the bench. I'd say absolutely sound. I really, really don't get why. I just don't get why Nkunku isn't on the bench. I don't get why Anthony Gordon isn't on the bench. I looked at our bench at the weekend when we lined up, and after the first 25 minutes of that game against Burnley, when we looked so flat, when we looked so lacklustre, when we were creating the odd opportunity, but we didn't seem to have much energy in the middle of the park, and I looked at that game and I thought, there's nobody on this bench that I'm confident in coming on and changing this whatsoever. Absolutely nobody. Now again, we constantly repeat ourselves week after week. Is Anthony Gordon guaranteed to come on and change a game of football? Absolutely not. Is Niles Nkunku guaranteed to come on and change a game of football? Absolutely not. But having those options on the bench is surely better than having options of players that have notoriously let you down time after time after time. And look at the Niles Nkunku situation at the weekend. Fabian Delph signed, Carlo preferred him because of the experience and whatever. Starts at left wing back. basically does nothing much and then makes one dart and run 20 minutes into the game and pulls up with an injury and has to come off. We're then having to move a young centre-back in Ben Godfrey over to left-back. And Ben Godfrey played really, really well at left-back. He did. I've seen him on a couple of occasions, actually, opening his mouth and shouting at players and directing players, which I think is showing the leadership qualities that he has. I think he's going to be a top player in the future. But it wasn't ideal because Ben Godfrey, let's be honest, for as well as he played and as solid as he was defensively, going forward, he's not got that attacking mindset because he's a centre-back or a central defensive midfielder. He's not used to going forward. He's not used to creating at the other end of the pitch. So we were playing, ultimately, again, a formation where we had a decent, solid defensive left-back, but going forward, he wasn't really up to it because that's not the type of player that he is, and understandably so. So ultimately, 90% of our strategy and our tactics and our game style goes then because a lot of our play is based around those two fullbacks getting forward, specifically the left fullback in what Luca Dean does week in, week out. But I think that moment sort of changed the game for us. So 20 minutes in, like I said, we concede 3 minutes in and we've got a real issue with this. We've got a real issue with conceding goals from outside the box. And the real issue is that every single side we come up against this season is going to look at Everton Football Club and think, if you can just get the ball from 25 yards out, have a go. Because the keeper seems to be dumbfounded every time the ball goes near him, even though I thought he had a decent game. And the defence don't break you down, they don't come at you. So have a go, have a shot. Might go in the back of the net, mightn't go in the back of the net, but if it does, brilliant, you're 1-0 up. And again, like I said, the Burnley goal at the weekend just was carbon copy of the Leeds goal we conceded last week. We go 1-0 down in the first 3 minutes, and again, heads sort of drop a little bit. We are creating opportunities. Dominic Calvert-Lewin has an opportunity where the ball comes in and he gets his foot on it and it ends up being at Nick Pope. I actually said in the instant match reaction I think he should do better. Haven't seen it again. It's a difficult one because he is outstretched and ultimately I think he just wants to get a connection on it to give himself an opportunity of scoring, but maybe he should do better in that situation. And we are trying to break Burnley down, but we're not doing it with any massive intensity. I'd say Burnley were comfortable in that first half. They weren't, pinned back. They weren't getting, balls thrown into the box left, right and centre. We had the odd opportunity here and there, don't get me wrong, but we weren't massively threatening them, were we? Let's be perfectly honest. We will get into the live comments in a second. I've noticed the Blue Boys Network has donated £2 to the live stream. Big thanks, he says. Delph's hamstring has got us a point. Well, we're going to talk about that in a second. Like I said, again, there's not much you can tell. The 5 at the back formation isn't working. It's far too easy to play through us. It's far too easy for that ball to go over the top and just completely, just end our defence. And that's the big issue is, again, we're coming out of a game where you're looking at Mina and you're thinking, individually, he done okay, Yerry Mina. He really done okay. Individually, Michael Keane, played well. Ben Godfrey done really well. Alex Iwobi, not great defensively, but okay. But yet, in that first 20-odd minutes before Fabian Delph left the pitch, we were just constantly being bombarded. Jordan Pickford makes a massive save from Chris Wood, I think it is, who's just completely played onside. No defender decides to sack him. And, ultimately, he gets the wrong side of the defender, and Jordan Pickford makes an absolute massive save. And then we go up the other end, like I said, we're still trying to create, we're still trying to get opportunities. And then Fabian Delph makes a run. And I do feel a bit sorry for Fabian Delph because ultimately, look, at the end of the day, it's never nice to see a player injured. And I do think it changed the game for the better for Everton Football Club, not because Fabian Delph left the pitch. I think I said this in the instant match reaction, and I didn't want to get the wrong impression. I'm not saying that we were better for it because Fabian Delph wasn't on the pitch. We were better for it because we switched to a 4 at the back formation. We should never have played a 5 at the back formation with Fabian Delph at left wing back because he cannot play there. It's not a scapegoating thing. He just isn't a forward thinking left back. He isn't even a left back. He's a central midfielder who can play at left back if need be, not a wing back. And Fabian Delph comes on the pitch, obviously hamstring pulls up, hopefully he has a speedy recovery, and we switch to a 4 at the back formation. Andre Gomez comes on, sits in the middle of the park, and actually improves us. He improves us. Ben Godfrey goes at left back, and we look a lot better for it. And like I said, you could see almost instantly that the players were more comfortable playing in that 4-3-3 formation. They knew their roles, they sort of knew what they were doing a little bit more. Yes, we lacked that attacking fullback because obviously Ben Godfrey isn't that type of player, but the overall play, it looked more comfortable. We looked more assured, we looked more confident, certainly going forward and in controlling the ball as well. And And again, like I mentioned before, I do want to talk briefly on Niles Nkunku, because I think these are the situations where you just look and you scratch your head a little bit. Because again, Carlo Ancelotti doesn't trust Niles Nkunku, doesn't think that he's good enough to start, doesn't think he's experienced enough to start, whatever the reason may be. Absolutely sound, that's fair enough. He watches him every weekend saying it, he can make that decision, absolute fair enough. Why isn't he on the bench when we know that Fabian Delph's a player that does notoriously pick up injuries and has notoriously spent a lot of time on the sidelines? Why haven't we got a backup fullback on the bench? Why haven't we got a backup fullback on the bench that can play in the formation that we're currently playing? Why are we having to ask a young centre-back who has played everywhere but centre-back since he's been at the football club, right back, in a 3, left back? Why are we having to ask him to move over to left back? And okay, he done fantastically well, but that's not helping Ben Godfrey's development into a young up-and-coming centre-half, playing in all these different formations. That's what really baffles me with the Nkunku and Gordon situation. It's not that Carlo Ancelotti mightn't trust them or mightn't believe they're ready or not to play in the Premier League. It's that you look at the situation and you think, well, even if he doesn't trust them to start, even if he doesn't trust them to get that opportunity, why aren't they even on the bench? Why aren't they even in the 18? Why are we having our number 1 left back pick up an injury to see him out for 2 or 3 months and our number 2 left back nowhere near the match day squad? It just does not make much sense for me. And again, I don't want to sit here and start throwing out, different scenarios and throwing misinformation out there. But ultimately, it does lead you to think, has there something that's gone on there between either Ancelotti and Nkunku or Ancelotti and the young players in general as to why they're not even getting an opportunity in the first team squad? If they're not starting, I understand it. I completely understand. If Fabian Delph started that game of football and Niles Nkunku was on the bench, I'd say, you know what? Ultimately, I don't agree with it because Fabian Delph isn't a wing back, but I understand that he's going for experience over the youth. Sound. Why isn't he even on the bench? It does not make any sense for me, especially when the inevitable happened, and that was Fabian Delph having to come off through injury and us having to move over somebody, and again, have a defensive instability in there in moving a centre-back over to left-back, who, okay, granted, done very, very well. Don't get me wrong, he was brilliant, but it's not ideal. We could have had Nkunku in there, and I said it last week, if Nkunku had an opportunity and he blew it and he was absolutely dreadful, you'd say, well, okay, maybe that's the reason as to why Carlo Ancelotti isn't putting him in week in, week out, but he hasn't had that opportunity. I understand that he's played in a couple of Carabao Cup games and he's played in 1 Premier League game, which he wasn't particularly great in. I understand that, but it's not like we've got blooming Alphonso Davies, David Alaba in his prime, Roberto Carlos on the bench to come in and replace Luca Dean, is it? We've got players who are shoehorning into that position. Why not give the young left-back a chance? But like I said at the start of the team, I'm not going to go in and sit here and talk for an hour about Nkunku or Gordon, because it just feels like the more and more likely they are to get an opportunity, the less likely they are to be in the starting matchday squad, if that makes sense. It's like, if Richarlison's fit and firing, and then Anthony Gordon may be on the bench and he might get an opportunity off the bench, in the last 10 or 15 minutes of a game. If Richarlison's injured, then, Gordon isn't even in the matchday squad. Same with Nkunku. He was on the bench a couple of weeks ago when Dean was playing. Dean obviously picks up an injury and comes out, and then Nkunku isn't even in the matchday squad. I just don't understand it, but again, like I said, I just think that going over it constantly, we're sort of wasting our breath, because it's clear that there's something going on there as to why these players aren't in the matchday squad. But again, like I said, we continue. We looked a lot better for returning to that forward to back formation. If you're enjoying, by the way, so far, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. Really, really do appreciate all of the support on the live streams, of course. But we looked a lot better. We did look a lot better. We looked a lot more solid. The players seemed to know what they were doing. It was a little bit more organised, but we still weren't playing with that fight. We still weren't playing with that intensity. We still weren't playing with that want to go and just absolutely kill the game off. We equalised a couple of minutes before the half-time break again. Really nice play by Alan, picks the ball up, battles for the ball, makes up for his mistake, because ultimately he was at fault for the goal that we conceded. He gave the ball away sloppily in the midfield, makes up for that mistake, brings it forward, gets it to Richarlison, who puts a good ball into the box, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin finishes. And you're thinking, right, okay, we've reverted back to a forward-back formation. The players seem to be more confident in it. They seem to be more assured. We've got the equaliser before half-time. Go out in the second half and really kill this game off. Now, grab it by the scruff of the neck and go and win it. but we just didn't. It was a very similar second half to the game against Fulham, very similar second half last week. Opportunities where we can come out and just completely and utterly perform and kill a game off. We just don't seem to be doing at the moment, and that's the most frustrating thing. Because what's Carlo Ancelotti saying in those half-time team talks that is making these players put in such a lackadaisical second half performance, especially when we're 1-1 against the side who is sitting second bottom in the league. Again, no disrespect to Burnley, the expectation was we go out and win that game of football, and ultimately we didn't. We'll go into talking about the second half in a little bit later on. I also want to pick up on a couple of other things as well, of course. But let's get into the live comments. Got loads of live comments. Really, really do appreciate it. Like I said, if you're enjoying, please do hit that like button. Share it on social media as well. A big thanks to everybody watching live. If you're watching as a YouTube video, big thank you. Leave your comments in the comment section. Eugene says, Keane, future hint, and Alberto boost. Yeah, Moise Keane's been talking a little bit about his future, saying, no, practically said, don't ask me about my future. Uden says, Richarlison and Field at Everton players nominated for a prestigious new award, and Pickford pinpoints key position. I want to talk about Jordan Pickford. I also want to talk about Alex Iwobi. I think they were two positives from the weekend. More so Alex Iwobi's first half performance than a second half performance. But I do want to talk about Jordan Pickford. Wimmy says, hey guys, hi mate, how you doing? Pogo says, just don't understand why we played Delph. Again, If we played a flat back four and Delph started at left back, I'd understand it. Because to be fair, I'd be able to sort of sit back and go, I get that, because ultimately he is the experienced left back, he's the experienced option. I don't understand playing him a full back, and I certainly don't understand not even having Nkunku in the 18. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Wayne says, even and Wormy loving the Merry Crimbo on screen, Cam, thank you very much. Wayne says, don't know if you read, Cam, I left a comment on your reaction vid. It started rough playing free at the back, but honestly after Delph done us a solid, we went 4-3-3, we were better. I did read it, mate, I did. I'm going to try and get back to as many of the comments on that video, but I do read them all, and I leave them all at heart as well, just basically to say I've read them. It's just difficult to keep on top of commenting back to all of them. But no, I agree, and like I said, I feel a bit sorry for Delph, because I don't want to sit here and go, oh, we were much better without Fabian Delph, because that makes it sound like, you know, it was Delph's fault that we were dreadful. It wasn't. The formation was, again, just does not work without attacking-minded fullbacks, and we changed the formation when he went off, so ultimately we played better. James says, hi, can we have to play 4-4-2 from now on? I think 4-3-3, to be honest with you. I think that suits us the most. Wayne says, I think what Big Dunk brought was pride, passion, and every player scared not to put a shift in because they would answer to him, but he's still there. So why are they now not scared if he's still there? If he sees them every week, they should still be scared to not put a shift in. James says, Michael Keane's better than 4 for me. I agree. I don't want to say that, Wayne. I don't wish defence on it. I don't wish that on anybody. Wayne says, James, we were playing 4-3-3. Connor says, you're always looking for a scapegoat. Doesn't matter who it is. Delph personally has won more than our club in 2 cents. He's having a 21-year-old kid who loves in his dad is embarrassing. I don't know who you're referring to there. I don't know if you're referring to Nkunku. I'm not scapegoating Delph. The fact of the matter is, we can't play a 5 at the back formation without Luca Dean. And when Delph went off, we reverted back to a 4 at the back. So we played better. Eugene's talking about Bernard, and Amy says we won't see Delph until at least January. Well, if it's a hamstring injury, it might even be longer. They can be quite nasty, those hamstring injuries, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, like I said, you know, we go into the first half, we go into half-time, you know, we can take some confidence from it. We've scored, we've equalised in the last moments of the half, we've reverted back to a formation that I think all of the players are more, you know, used to playing and comfortable playing in. And we should be going out to win that game, and we should be going out to bounce back. We should be going out to get the 3 points. But we just didn't really, did we? Again, it was such a flat, lacklustre second half performance, and it left me really, really angry. And I'm sure you could see how angry I was in the instant match reaction. And that was because I basically watched 45 minutes of us it was just a nonsense. There just was no energy, there was no passion, there was no intensity, there was no desire really to go and get the second goal, to go and get the winner. We had, you know, Richarlison in there, who I think didn't really do an awful lot after the assist. Dominic Calvert-Lewin struggled because, again, you know, he struggles when he hasn't got a lot of creativity going into him. Like I said, fullback-wise, Alex Iwobi massively faded off in the second half, as he tends to do. Ben Godfrey, to be fair to him, again, bit like the James situation, it's starting to do me head in a little bit, how people are picking up on James Rodriguez not being a defensive-minded player. He's one of the best creative footballers in world football. He wasn't signed to defend, and I get that he has to work a little bit harder probably, and he has to show a little bit more defensively, but same with Ben Godfrey. Ben Godfrey wasn't put at left-back to get forward and throw crosses into the box. He was put at left-back to do a job defensively, and he's done that job defensively. He's very, very good. So, listen, ultimately, it was just a flat second half. I expected so much more. I expected Everton to go out, grab that game by the scruff of the neck and win it. We did look better in the second half than we did in the first half, but it wasn't, let's be honest, it wasn't difficult to do that. Andre Gomez come on and sort of solidified that defence. Abdoulaye Doucouré looked a lot better for it. Alan grew into the game and started to add a little bit more consistency. Again, we need to see more consistency from those two. And ultimately, for me, probably the most consistent player throughout the game for me in an Everton shirt, other than Jordan Pickford, who I thought played very, very well, and Ben Godfrey, was James Rodriguez. And James Rodriguez has come into a bit of stick today from, well, I'll give you three guesses. It's TalkSport, really. TalkSport who employ ex-footballers to come on and ramble shite to get them clicks and to make controversy. But he's come into a bit of stick. It was from Gabriel Bramley-Moore. Don't know what Gabriel Bramley-Moore's ever done to warrant giving James Rodriguez stick. But he basically said that, is he being found out? Does he not like the weather whatsoever? James Rodriguez created a handful of opportunities on Saturday that just weren't made the most of. He had one effort, which was fantastically saved by Nick Pope, to be fair to Nick Pope. He had the one where he passes it through to Gylfi-Sigurdsson in the last couple of minutes of the game, which obviously, again, Gylfi misses. He created another couple, which we just didn't convert whatsoever. I actually think James had a decent game, to be honest with you. I think he had a really decent game. He was trying to create defensively, yet he's not going to offer you as much defensive work rate as somebody else may, but he offers you a lot more quality than anybody else will. So going forward, I think he was very, very unlucky, James, because he was creating. He was trying to get the ball forward. He was trying to get it in the right areas. He was trying to, constantly create opportunities, and they just weren't coming off for him or for Everton. And ultimately, look, again, the nonsense regarding him, he hasn't got an assist for 2 weeks, so is he not as good as anyone thought he was? The lad is being the most creative. Every time he puts an Everton shirt on, he's the most creative player on the pitch. He was the most creative player on the pitch on Saturday. He was brilliant. And if Gylfi-Sigurdsson slots what was one of the easiest opportunities I've ever seen in a game of football, then we're all lauding James Rodriguez for what was one of the best passes you will see this season. But he doesn't, and ultimately at the end of it, you're coming out the game and you're thinking, oh, well, James hasn't got an assist today. But look at what he did. Look at the balls he played. Look at that ball to Gylfi-Sigurdsson, which, like I said, should have been a goal, should have been the match winner. And we had very few opportunities in that second half, and Burnley had very few opportunities as well, to be fair. They had one where Jordan Pickford made a fantastic save. It was a header. I think it was from Chris Wood off a corner, and Jordan Pickford's outstretched, and it's absolutely brilliant. And that's why I give Jordan Pickford a lot of plaudits as well for this game, because I really, really do think he was fantastic. I do. Okay, could he have done better for the goal? Potentially he could have positioned himself a little bit better. Again, I think the defence need to be running out, and the defence need to be doing a lot more, and the midfield need to be doing a lot more as well. Alan can't simply be giving the ball away in those positions as easy as he did. But ultimately, I think Jordan Pickford had a decent game. I really do. I think if you're picking at Jordan Pickford, then you're sort of looking in the wrong areas for me. We need to start looking at the players that didn't have great games and didn't do an awful lot. And I think Jordan Pickford saved us on 2 occasions from losing that game of football. Don't get me wrong, Nick Pope at the other end probably saved them on a couple of occasions as well. The Gylfi-Sigurdsson one being one of them, the James Rodriguez effort, curled effort in the second half, one of them as well. But Jordan Pickford massively saved Everton at the weekend. He made 2 big saves, one in the first half at 1-0 I think it was, and that header in the second half, which was just fantastic. A fantastic header. And like I said, we have to look on the positives, because we didn't lose the game, and you'd probably swear by this live stream that we'd lost the game. We haven't. We've taken a point, which in isolation, a point away against a side like Burnley, who make it notoriously tough for sides to go to and win, isn't not the worst point in the world, but it's not an isolated performance. We've seen these lackluster, flat, no energy, no intensity performances now for 3 or 4 weeks on the bounce. Something needs to change. But yeah, positive. Jordan Pickford I thought was fantastic. Alex Iwobi again, first half, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant in that first half. Could he be better in the second? Yes. He needs to add a little bit more consistency. Again, very similar to the Fulham game, really. Alex Iwobi in the first half was getting forward. He was trying to throw balls into the box. He was trying to create. In the second half, he was sort of focusing more on his defensive work, which I just don't really understand why he wasn't breaking forward and why he wasn't still trying to create opportunities. But like I said, the two biggest opportunities for Everton in that second half was one, James Rodriguez gets the ball in a really good area, kills it, and Nick Pope makes a good save. And the second one was, of course, the Gylfi Sigurdsson situation, which we will go on to talking about in a second. But yeah, again, it was such a flat second half. There's literally not much to sit here and talk about other than those two chances and a chance that Burnley had. There's not much to talk about because nothing much happened, to be honest with you. I very nearly fell asleep watching it. Let's get back into the live comments then before we go on to talking about that Gylfi Sigurdsson chance that I think we do desperately need to talk about. If you're enjoying, by the way, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. Really do appreciate all of the support recently. Where are we then in the live comments? Johnny says, so many passes back to the keeper during the Burnley game. It made me nervous every time. We need to think moving forward, not backwards in games. Well, yeah, again, it's ultimately, it's one of those situations where I just don't understand what's changed. I don't understand, what's changed from the start of the season when we were fantastic going forward and we were so positive and we were getting forward and we were breaking defences down and we were creating opportunities, to watch change now where we just seem scared. We just seem like afraid to go forward, afraid to take a chance, afraid to sort of take a risk. And it's a worry. It is a worry. Done that one from DG. James says Coleman, Holgate, Keane and Dean. Connor says scapegoating, lad. You can't just accept the draw or defeat. Teams are better than us sometimes. Just accept it. But were Burnley better than us at the weekend? Were Burnley better than Everton at the weekend, or did Everton just not show up to win the game of football? That's what you've ultimately that's what you've got to ask yourself, haven't you? Joe is in the live comments. He says, "Is right, Cam lad? What's happening, Joe?" Joe is the lovely lad who created this fantastic masterpiece Merry Christmas screen that you're seeing there. What's happening, mate? James says Nkunku should play. No fear, I like him when Dean is injured and the formation is changed with a better team. Spot on. Eugene's going for 4-1 this weekend. James says 4-4-2 we win, 2-1 clean sheet would be nice. Talking about the Chelsea game. Whammy says you're mad, Hammer. James, Coleman is injured and clearly based on the last game. Godfrey plays left centre-back, Keane plays right centre-back. And we were playing 4-3-3, not 4-4-2. Spot on. And Wayne says pick players in their own positions. They've got to do better than we've got at the moment. Yeah, spot on. Diego1878 says, Cam, as someone who talks sense, can you see why he's playing Delph over Nkunku? Because I can. He obviously doesn't think he's ready. Mate, I don't understand. I honestly do not understand. Not so much. Listen, playing Delph over Nkunku, I would think, is because he has more trust in Fabian Delph because he's the more experienced player. He's won Premier League, blah, blah, blah. I understand that. Nkunku not even being in the matchday squad when we've got no fit natural left back and he is the only fit natural left back is beyond me. It's absolutely beyond me. I don't understand that whatsoever. Like I said, I don't want to start throwing misinformation out about always there being a falling out, this, that, the other. But I just honestly don't understand it. And ultimately, it's something that I don't think anybody is going to be able to get. Anyway, back into the game then. So, yeah, again, very flat, boring second half. Not much happened. We don't create many opportunities. But the difference maker, last 20, 30 seconds of the game, we have an opportunity to win the game. This is the difference between sides that finish in European places and win titles and sides that don't. Is those moments in the last seconds of a game when you haven't particularly played brilliantly and when you might be going towards a defeat or only a point. Those moments where you win that game of football in, like I said, the last minute. Look at Leicester at the weekend. We're probably one of the worst performances so far this season, coming up against an out-of-form Sheffield United side, and they struggled massively. Jamie Vardy has a chance in the 92nd minute, he buries it to win the game. Ultimately, after that, you don't care. If Gylfi Sigurdsson slots that, I'm sitting here saying, yeah, it wasn't a great performance and we need to do better, but we've got the 3 points, so 3 points is 3 points. That's the difference between sides that do well and finish in European places and sides that struggle come the end of the season, is being able to take those opportunities, and that for me is an absolute golden opportunity, and I honestly don't understand how Gylfi Sigurdsson has missed it. I really don't understand it. James Rodriguez, let's not get it twisted. Anybody that gives James Rodriguez criticism, Gabriel Bramley-Moore very clearly didn't do his research this morning when he decided to open his mouth, because if he'd have watched James on Saturday, he'd have realised not only how creative he was, but if Gylfi Sigurdsson slots that opportunity, that goes down as one of the best passes in the Premier League so far this season. It's absolutely pinch perfect. He splits the defence completely in half, one through ball, and all that Sigurdsson has to do is find the right hand side of the goal. The keeper's left, which is absolutely a bad. He's got three things to do in this situation that would have resulted in a goal. He either passes it into the right hand side of the goalkeeper's left, where Pope's nowhere to be seen, and it goes in. He either blasts it, so he makes sure that if it does hit Nick Pope, it goes in the back of the net anyway because he's blasted it, or he has a little bit of height on it, because when he takes the shot, Nick Pope is practically lying down with a pillow with his quilt over him, listening to a podcast before he's going to bed. He's practically on the floor, so he can either place it bottom right, where would have been an instant goal, hit some power with it, where more often than not it's going in the back of the net, or lift the ball, chip the ball, add a bit of height to it because he's already on the floor. He does neither, and he passes it to him in his left hand side of the goal, and Nick Pope makes a save, an easy save. And that for me is the difference maker between sides that will finish in the top four and in a European place at the end of the season, and sides that will miss out, is those opportunities where you've played awfully, you haven't been brilliant, and you've got the chance to win the game in the last seconds and you don't take it. It's a shock and miss for me, and I had a little bit of a go at Gylfi, and I said, he should be deducted the week's wages, and obviously that's not going to happen, that's not realistic, but I honestly do ask the question as to what Gylfi Sigurdsson brings to Everton Football Club, and I don't want to start saying, would Anthony Gordon have finished that, but I honestly think if it had been Cenk Tosun on the end of that ball, it goes in and we win the game of football, but it's not. I don't understand what's wrong with Gylfi Sigurdsson at the moment. Gylfi Sigurdsson is a very good finisher of the ball. He's shown that before. He's shown that at Everton. He can hit it from 20 or 30 odd yards and score. I don't get what's happening at the moment, where he just seems to not want the ball whatsoever. He doesn't want the chances. He doesn't want to, be in the right positions. He doesn't want to have a go. He doesn't want to get involved. I don't get it. If you don't want to be at the football club, come out and have that conversation with Carlo and say, look, I don't want to be here. I want to leave. I want to actively, look for a move like Morgan Schneiderlin did last season. Come out and say that. Don't stay quiet knowing you don't want to be at the football club. No one's saying come out to the press or come out to the fans and say I don't want to be here. Pull Carlo and say, look, I'm not confident, I don't want to be here, or I'm not confident, maybe leave me out. I don't know. I think this maybe falls down on Carlo now. Carlo has to look at Gylfi and think, listen, this lad's shattered of confidence. He is absolutely shattered. He doesn't want the ball, and even when he's getting the ball in good areas, he's not making the right decision. So I'm just going to leave him out for a few weeks. I'm just going to give him a rest. I'm just going to take him out the limelight, because you have to be scoring those opportunities. There's no excuse whatsoever. He misses that. 30 seconds later, the whistle goes and we've drawn 1-1. And again, we've given up the chance to go and win a game against the side that, let's be honest, we should be beating. No disrespect to Burnley, but we should have beaten them. They weren't brilliant on the day. They set up a typical Burnley setup. They defended really well. They stuck most of their players behind the ball. They hit us in the first couple of minutes, scored their goal, and they were happy with that. It took us 45 minutes to equalise. We had a full 45 minutes then to go gung-ho, and we had that one chance where we got through in the last seconds and we couldn't convert it. And ultimately that sums up that game of football for me. It's just flat throughout, and the one time where you'd have the opportunity to go, well, okay, we won the game, doesn't matter. Well, it does matter, but however we performed, whatever, we still won the game. We didn't take it. And, for me, that just isn't good enough whatsoever. I do want to look at some of the positives of the game, because ultimately I think there is positives to take from it. Like I said, Jordan Pickford I thought was absolutely brilliant. There you go, 1878 in the comments says Pickford was a 9 out of 10, was sound, weren't a fault for not so you can see to Leeds, and the same thing happens the week after. That's not something you can coach. Got to sense danger as a defender. You're spot on, I agree. I think Jordan Pickford was absolutely brilliant. Ben Godfrey at left back deserves a special shout out. Stepped in again, unnatural position for him. He's a young centre half. He's played at right back, he's played at central defensive midfield, stepped in at left back and was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic for me. He deserves a shout out. Like I said, Alex Iwobi in the first half, very good. Dominic Calvert-Lewin on the score sheet again. Can Dom do a little bit more? Maybe, probably, in terms of creating his own opportunities, but ultimately he was in the right place at the right time again, and he got the goal that equalised us in the game. So there's positives to take from it. One big positive I think we should all take from it is that it was quite evidently clear. We'd played games this season where we'd used the 4-3-3 and we'd played well, and we hadn't played well. We'd used the 5 at the back and we'd played alright against Fulham, and we hadn't played well. We've now seen Carlo use 2 different formations in one game, and there was a clear difference. We were poor with the 5 at the back. We got a lot better at 4 at the back. So one thing we can take out of this game is hopefully now Carlo remains with that 4 at the back formation, 4-3-3. Like I said, we need that defensive stability. He needs to look at this team and go, right, okay, if Dean, Coleman, Mina and Keane are my best defensive line, and if they're all fit, they play, who is the second best left back? If that's Delph, who's the third best left back? Who's my second best right back? Who's my next best defender? We need to start looking at that, and we need to start adding stability, because constantly chopping and changing the defensive line isn't helping anybody. It's causing confusion. The players that are playing there consistently, i.e. Michael Keane, aren't benefiting from it at all. The communication's poor, and it's conceding us goals, and ultimately it's dropping us points. And I understand that. I'm not having a go at Ancelotti for the fact that we haven't got our full-strength defensive line-up out, because obviously Dean's injured, obviously Seamus is injured, but I think we need a clear, strongest back line, a clear second strongest back line, players to come in for certain players, not just, well, Iwobi can play on the right if he need be, Iwobi can play on the left if need be, because it's difficult to work with. Jedi says, let's get Isco in a winger in January and a wing back, that would be perfect. I don't know about January again, I don't like talking about January because we don't notoriously do a lot of business in January, but we need a right back, whether it be January, whether it be the summer, we need a right back. He also says we need Richie to start scoring. Wimmy says not keen on Isco, more slow, we definitely don't need anybody. I also want to talk before we finish up, by the way, Andre Gomez for me was done really well when he come on. I've got to give him a lot of stick recently, and a lot of people have, because his performances haven't been good enough, but to be fair to Andre Gomez, he stepped in and he was brilliant. He just shored it up. Some of his passing was a little bit off, but a lot of his passing, was what it needed to be, and he done really well. Wimmy says it's just brainless, not recognising the importance of the moment, being a composed seasonal professional and putting a bit of finesse to finish that chance. I honestly reckon if you were in a Sunday League team and you had that one chance to score at the end of it and you missed, you'd have your Sunday League lads. I'd be having a go at you for it. DJ says Siggy made it a great save by kicking it onto the keeper. Pope barely moved. Well, yeah, again, he kicked it at Nick Pope. Like I said, Nick Pope was already lying down, half asleep, bedtime story read, ready to turn the light off and go a kip, and he kicked it at him. Diego says, but I reckon he tried to confuse Leeds by playing Richarlison and Iwobi on the same side, and it never worked. But we just need to revert back to the simplisticness, and for me, that's a 4-3-3. Sammy says, I'd wager we get a bag of balls and a case of Jaffa cakes for Sigurdsson if we work at it. I don't want to just... Listen, again, I want to make it absolutely clear as well before we finish up. I don't just want to sit here and scapegoat Gylfi Sigurdsson, because ultimately he come on with 20 minutes to go and we were shocking before he come on and we weren't much better after he come on. So it wasn't just his fault that we didn't win this game of football, by the way. But he has to be doing better in that situation. He absolutely has to be doing better. DJ says, Isco is top quality. You don't need pace when you're that good on the ball. Well, again, that's proven by James, isn't it? Jedi says, anyone know when Kabaman is going to play? It just seems to be 2 weeks. Every time Carlo's asked about him, it's just 2 weeks. 2 weeks. This is the longest 2 weeks of my life, by the way. Diego says, I never see Calvert-Lewin putting defenders under pressure. Why? I don't know. He probably does need to be a little bit more of a nuisance, but again, I think he is. I think he's a nuisance to defenders. I just think that... I don't know. We'll probably do a live stream on Dominic Calvert-Lewin, to be honest, in the next couple of weeks as to where he needs to improve. Diego says, can you answer this? Why don't Everton press from the front? Can anyone answer me that in the chat? I don't know, because we were pressing from the front at the start of the season. In the opening couple of games of the season, we were pressing from the front and we were creating and we were getting forward and we were looking absolutely brilliant. But in the last few weeks, so I don't know, we just don't seem to be doing it. Diego says, Cam Delph has played left backs for City numerous times, can fit in there, not a problem. What do you do when you haven't got an experienced left back? This is not Carlos' fault, it's the recruitment. He can play left back and I'd understand that, but I don't think he can play left wing back, which is a completely different position. Philip doesn't believe Decore is good enough. Semi says Gabaman can't get out of bed without knocking. William says, I agree a bit charmed about Decore, but again, honestly think all the system changes has done nothing for any of the players. Spot on, absolutely agree, mate. DJ says the system is not the reason he can't pass or control the ball. While the system is not the best, the players have to step up. I agree, to be honest with you, mate. I agree. Blue Boys Network has donated another £2. He says, let's keep smiling, Blues. Is right. Diego says, do you not think, Cam, we have to start pressing from the front? Times when we're breaking, we look dangerous. Against Burnley, we'll hit form again. That's a guarantee. I do, and we will. And again, like I said, let's end the stream on a positive message and a note. Let's stay calm. It's not the end of the world. We will get better. We will improve. We just need a bit more stability and a bit more consistency. And honestly, I think we will improve. Anyway, that's going to do it for this live stream. If you have enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. Really, really do appreciate all of the support on the channel as per usual. We will be back on Wednesday, 5:15, for another live stream. If you're watching and in the live comments, big thanks to everybody for watching. Really, really do appreciate it. If you're watching as a YouTube video, again, a massive thanks for getting involved. Leave your comments in the YouTube comments, and we will get involved with as many of them as possible. Big thanks to everybody. Big thanks to Mike, of course, for the donations. Really do appreciate that, mate. Wayne says it's not just a chance last game, Cam. Sigurdsson, there's at least 1 point in every game he plays where he could do something special, but he really does. Fair enough. Jedi says, thanks, Cam. Cheers, mate. Eugene says, see you about it. Obviously, Wednesday. And William says, take care, guys. Thank you very much. Big thanks to everybody for watching. If you have enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. Not the greatest results, not the greatest performance. Got a point at the end of the day, and we move on now to next week, and hopefully we can go out and put in a performance very much like the one a year ago today against the same team. But let's be positive. I don't think we need to get to the Carlo Ancelotti out stage yet. I think that's a bit ridiculous still. It's a process, like we said. It will get better. We just have to start adding a little bit more consistency for me, and a bit more stability. Semi says, thanks, Cam. Take care, fellow Blues. Cheers, mate. Wayne says, take care, Blues. And DJ says, Isco might be forced out in January. He's not back in Sudan anymore. Potentially. And we could get him on a decent deal as well. Big thanks for watching. Like I said, we'll be back live 5:15 PM on Wednesday. Don't forget to join us then. Big thanks for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. And we'll see you soon.